Hi, Kelly Clement here from MetaStock. In this video, I am very excited to introduce you to MetaStock 17. MetaStock 17 is a full-featured upgrade with, I'm very excited to say, two new power tools, one called QuoteCenter, one called OptionScope, and then also a wide variety of user-requested enhancements. So as we get through this presentation, you're going to be seeing a lot, learning a lot of new information. So let's go ahead and get right into MetaStock 17. Okay, so these are all the new features we're going to be talking about today in MetaStock 17. You can see the first two here are QuoteCenter and OptionScope. These are our two new power tools. These are the ones that we're really going to focus on. And then after we get through those, these are the other features we're going to be talking about that you see here on the PowerPoint presentation. We're not going to talk about what they all are right now. We'll get to them in a bit, but let's go ahead and jump into QuoteCenter to start. So QuoteCenter is our brand new tool designed to help you build and manage your lists. Beyond building and managing your lists, it also helps you be able to visualize your data. And that's one of the biggest things of QuoteCenter is visualizing your data and working with your data. So I'm going to go ahead and skip right over into getting into QuoteCenter, showing you what's in there. And let's go ahead and move over into MetaStock. So when I come into MetaStock 17, you'll notice the Power Console as always. And what we've done here is we've added in two new buttons. You've got QuoteCenter here, OptionScope here. The first one we're going to talk about again is QuoteCenter. So I just go ahead and click on the QuoteCenter tab. And you'll notice this is very similar to the other tabs in the Power Console where it gives you options for loading data. Well, what happens here, let's say that I wanted to load the S&P 100. You'll see I select that, and then over here you actually get a whole list of all the symbols that are included in the S&P 100. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go ahead and open this list, and then we'll come back here in a while and show you how you can use this same window to build custom lists. So let's go ahead and open up QuoteCenter. And you'll see this is loading up all your instruments and giving you a way to visualize your data. So let's go ahead and maximize this for just a moment here. And you can see here that we're looking at all the symbols in the S&P 100. You can see I have my symbol here, symbol name here. Then we have tick, last, high, open, low, close, and volume. Open interest is if I was looking at a futures contract, for example. Now I'm looking at this in MetaStock RT, so I'm also going to see bid and ask. These are fields you wouldn't see in end of day data. It's only going to use this for real time. And then you can see net change and percent change. The other thing that you can see here is time. So this is the time the last tick came in. Now, because I'm looking at real time, it shows me tick. Because if you were looking at end of day, it would show the date of the data that you had loaded. So for example, if it was today's data, it would have today's date in there. Source, it shows online. Now, one thing that's great about QuoteCenter here is it actually works with data from all your different feeds. So you can use Zenith, as I'm using here, which is our real-time data feed. You can use DataLink, which is our end-of-day data feed here at MetaStock that you can use to feed both online or local data. And then if you're using local data, you can actually load in any file format. You can load in legacy, and you can load in MS Local or even CSV if you wanted to. So it can read all those file formats right into QuoteCenter. And then I can come in and I can rank on any of these. So example, if I wanted to see what volume is the top volume today, I can just double click and it'll take me to the top volume security. Now, when I'm working with data, and one of the things people have been asking us for is something like QuoteCenter, where you can actually watch your data and then be able to open a chart. So if I double click here, this will open up a chart of Wells Fargo, and I can go down my list. Let me actually expand this here. And I can go down through my list and I can open up all these securities by just double clicking. So it makes it very, very easy to get to your data, bring up your charts and work with your data. Now, let's say that I'm working with my list. Say you have your watch list here and you want to add securities to your watch list or do something like that. You can actually just come up here and let's say I wanted to add Deutsche Bank to my list. I could just type in the symbol and type add. And it will bring me, and it will add Deutsche Bank right in to your list. If you don't know the symbol, you can just click our instrument search button and you can search for your instrument right here as well. Now, as you work with lists and you're building lists and doing your data, oftentimes you may say, hey, this is a security I like, I want to keep it here. And you may say, this is one I don't want. I'm not trading this anymore in my portfolio. I need to get rid of it. So I can either just highlight it and then select delete selected instrument, or I can right click on one and choose delete there as well. So it makes it very easy to move your data around and work with your list. Now, let's say I've opened up the S&P 100 here. I've made some changes. Now I want to save this as, say, my portfolio or my custom watch list or something like that. So up at the top here, you can see where it says QuoteCenter List 1. So this is a list I just opened up, but now I can save it. So I can just say Save As, and I can name it my demo list. We'll just call it demo list for today. We'll click Save, and you'll see this is now called demo list rather than QuoteCenter List 1. And what's great is as you build these custom lists, you can now just select between them. So if I had a different list open and I wanted to switch to demo list, I can just choose that list and work with it by just switching back and forth. You can also manage your different lists here and see all your different custom lists built in right there and choose those. So it makes it really easy to work with your data, be able to move back and forth. You can also change your theme. So if you don't like the dark color, you can change this to a dark orange theme where the words are orange, or you can go with a light theme. If you prefer that bright white, you can switch between those. Personally, I like the dark theme, so we'll leave it right there. So that's a quick way to work with your data. Now, QuoteCenter, being what it is actually great at building those lists, as I've started to show you. But to make it easier, we're just going to close QuoteCenter here for a second. We're going to close all these charts, and we'll go back to the Power Console. Now we're back here in QuoteCenter. So in the QuoteCenter tab in the Power Console, before you even open up your list, you can actually work with it right here. So again, I have the S&P 100. Let's just say I don't like trading stocks with the letter A. Bad example. That's not a reason to trade a stock, but we'll just use that as an example. So I'm just going to highlight all those, and I'm going to remove those instruments. And you can see that they disappear right there. So it takes them right out of the list. Okay, so you can see my count over here has gone down to 90. So I can do that with any instrument in here. And then once you have that all set, you can open up QuoteCenter and save that list again. So it makes it easy again. As you build lists, they come over here and they are in Use Existing List. So you can now just select whichever list you want to open, hit Open QuoteCenter, and bounce from there. So you don't have to go up here and check which one you want. It's just easy to select them from right here. So it's very easy to work with QuoteCenter, manage your data, open up charts, work with your data, and get to where you want to be a lot faster. It will really improve your workflow and make life in MetaStock easier for you. Okay, so that's a quick overview of QuoteCenter. So let's just recap here. Maybe see if there's anything I missed. So we talked about using online or local data. You can use either one in there. You can open charts directly from the Power Console, as we talked about. Open any list from the Power Console. Now you can load up to 600 different symbols at once in here, which is awesome. So if you had more symbols listed, I'll just show you this really quick. You could come up here and you could tab between pages. There's about 200 per page, so you can just move between pages. I only have 100 symbols loaded, so that's why we're not seeing that page work. Okay, so you can select any group of stocks. So you can select a multiple list. Say you wanted the Dow 30 and the S&P 100. You can select multiple lists, manage and rank your lists, and then again, those color themes. So that's a quick overview of QuoteCenter for you. Again, QuoteCenter I'm very excited about because it really does make your workflow and your life a lot easier in managing your lists and your data and getting to your charts faster than ever before inside MetaStock. So again, just a quick image of QuoteCenter. You can sort and rank any of those columns. You can click to open up charts, and then you can build your lists. So those are kind of our top things that we're doing with QuoteCenter. So our next power tool that we're going to talk about here is OptionScope. So OptionScope is great for analyzing options. And obviously options are a big part of a lot of traders' lives. So we wanted to be able to provide a tool to help you get to the options that you want to trade quickly and analyze them. So here's a lot of what you can do. Again, let's just go ahead and jump right into OptionScope so we can review it, and then we'll come back and review kind of some of the features here at the end. So what we're going to do, I've already have Apple typed up here. This is the security we're going to analyze in OptionScope. So we type in the symbol that we want. If you don't know the symbol, you can actually come down to your list. So I could come down to my demo list and select Apple, and I can do it that way too. So there's two ways to open up from there. Now, before I open up OptionScope, it actually gives me a few ways to pre-filter the data, if you will, before we open it. So we're going to select open up any expiration within the next 365 days. We're going to limit down to options within 15% of the strike price. And then we're not going to say whether we want weekly, monthly, quarterly. Let's just open them all, and then we'll filter from there. So once I have all those set, I can hit OptionScope, and it will bring up my data and allow me to start working with my options. So let's go ahead and take a look here what's going on in OptionScope. So let's actually talk about the filters on the side first before we get to the grid over here. So these are the filters that we were just working with in the Power Console, kind of giving us a pre-filter look of what we were looking at. So you can see I've got anything selected within the next 365 days right here. Let's go ahead and maybe narrow that down so we don't have so many options here. You can see there's quite a few. Let's just say I want 11/15 of 2019. So that brings me down a little bit as far as the number of options I'm looking at. Again, I still have 15% for the strike price selected. And then I don't need to select what kind of expiration type filter I have because I'm looking at a specific date, but you could say I want weekly options or monthly options. And then you can rank by in the money and out of the money. But let's talk about the grid here first before we talk about in the money and out of the money. So what we have here with the grid is we have this left-hand side that is calls. And then if we scroll over here, you can see puts on the right. Let's actually take our filter down here a little bit so we can see it. So we have calls over here, puts over here. And then as the data goes in, what we have here are the Greeks, first of all. So the Greeks are very important in being able to analyze and look at time decay with our options. Now, we're not going to go into Greeks and what they all mean here. This is a high-level overview, but we will have other videos that will show you what the Greeks are and how to use the Greeks. But for now, you know that the Greeks are included. They are auto-calculated for you. There's nothing you have to do to calculate the Greeks. The only thing that you can do is over here, you can change the dividend yield and percentage rate for row. And that's available for you to change. But typically it comes in right from the data feed. You don't have to do anything there. So it's auto-calculated. So we have our Greeks here, and then we have implied volatility, open interest, volume, net change, percent change, last, bid, and ask. So here in the middle, we have our expiration date, which we chose of 11/15, and then our strike price. Okay, so all this is built in so you can pull it up. Now, one of the things that we're looking at here is I'm actually looking at MetaStock RT right now, which is our real-time platform, and all the data comes in from MetaStock Zenith. So one of the things we are actually just launching with MetaStock 17 is options data for end of day. So starting with MetaStock 17, we'll have US equity options for MetaStock 17 that's available. So you can do this in either end of day or our real-time product, which is awesome. So this is the first time we'll have options analysis available inside MetaStock. Now, one of the really unique things that we can do inside OptionScope is actually open charts of options. So one thing that's nice about a security like Apple is the volumes are heavily traded. So we can actually double click on this and we can see this whole option from the inception of when it was traded. And we can run analysis on this. We could put moving averages on it. We could put expert advisors on it. We could do whatever we wanted with this, just like any other chart. But we can analyze it as an underlying security. So you can see each of these. If I were to show you here, you can see it's the Apple, and you can see what the actual symbol is. We can see Apple November 9th, 225. So this is actually a great way to analyze your options and actually looking at the chart data of the option to see its past performance. So that's one unique thing that you can do. Another unique thing that you can do with OptionScope is I can come in here and I can just drag and copy these symbols, highlight these symbols, right-click on them, and go to Copy Clipboard. Now, what that does for me is it actually allows me to go back over to the Power Console, and you can see here we have this Custom List button. So you can go right to Custom Lists, we can go New, Online Instruments, and I can say my demo options, and I can add my options into a watch list in MetaStock. So we can actually chart these or pull them up in QuoteCenter. So if I hit close, now you see in my custom lists, let's minimize this, you can see my demo options right here. So a couple things I could do now. One, I could go to QuoteCenter and I could view these in QuoteCenter. So if I wanted to bring them up in QuoteCenter on a daily basis as a watch list, I could go to the Explorer. I could scan that list for, say, volume moves or something of that nature. I could back test them if I had some technical criteria that I wanted to run against them. So there's a lot. You could even forecast on them. So depends on the length of the options data that you have, but those are now new things that you have available to you that have never been before offered on options data, is this ability to run all these high-level technicals right on them. So just to show you an example, we'll go ahead and open them up in QuoteCenter. We'll just go ahead and click my demo options. And you can see it'll bring up the options with the symbol name, and you can see all that same data right there, but it's in it from a watch list now rather than having to go to OptionScope each time and pull them up. So it's a great way to tie all those tools together and bring them together into one awesome tool. So this will really help you in getting to that options data that you want to analyze very quickly, hone in on your options, and identify the best ones to trade. Just to recap, so view chains for any optional instrument in RT. So with RT, you'll be able to do any global option that's available because Zenith is able to offer all that data. Also futures data, if it has an option on it, you can bring up the OptionScope for that. For end of day, we are going to be, as I said, bringing up in U.S. optionable equity data, which will be available with MetaStock 17. So you'll be able to view those put calls, net change, percent change, bid ask, all that data. The Greeks, which is a big thing to have inside your quote screen. If you don't have those, you're missing out on a lot of data. And again, we'll have videos on what all those Greeks mean if you want to learn more about them. So you can sort by any of those filters. So if I had something that I wanted to sort on one of the columns, if I wanted to look for rank on gamma or delta, you can rank on any of these columns simply by clicking or double clicking to sort and rank. And then we have the filters that we've talked about where you could filter on strike, expiration type, in and out of the money, at the money, and Greeks. Now the last thing I will show you in OptionScope is the coloring in here. So the coloring, basically blue means that you're at the money and gray means you're out of the money. So it's a quick way to delineate between in the money and out of the money. If I wanted to only show the options that are in the money, I can choose the in the money filter, and that will just highlight the ones that are in the money, or I can switch to out of the money. So it makes it easy to highlight which ones you really want to focus on. If you're an out of the money trader or an in the money trader, you can quickly identify which ones work best for you by doing that. Okay, so again, quick view of OptionScope, the ability to filter on your criteria. You can chart, you can build your lists, and you can do any of those things. Okay. So now let's go ahead and go into some of the other new features that are available inside of MetaStock 17. The first one is, and again, these are ones that have been highly requested by our users over the last few years and things that you've been asking for us to do inside MetaStock. So I think you're really going to like some of these as we go through them. And the first one is an automatic update of the symbol database. Well, what does that mean? Well, what happens in MetaStock? Obviously, there's a lot of data that's covered in MetaStock. You can see all of our lists here. And what we're talking about is quite regularly, MetaStock puts out updates to the lists that are included in MetaStock. In anything older than 17, you need to go to metastock.com, you need to download an update, you need to install it, and it's a time-consuming process that you have to remember to do every month. And that's not our users' favorite thing to do. So what they've asked for is for an automatic symbol update, and we've done that now. So you'll have an automatic symbol update. So if you restart MetaStock and you get a pop-up that says, hey, there's been a symbol update applied, that means that you've got all the most up-to-date symbols and IPOs and things now inside your MetaStock, and that takes place automatically now, which is huge. It's less of your time for maintenance, and the software does it on its own. So big update there. Now this one, download or convert in legacy or MetaStock local file format. This one's actually a really big one. There's a lot of people who like to use our what's called legacy file format. What legacy file format is anything before version 11. We had an old file format that people would use, and it's something that's used with other software programs as well. So people may use MetaStock along with something else, and people use this legacy format. So people who are using other programs still have to use legacy file format, and they were having to use an old version of the downloader to do that, and it was kind of silly. So in version 15, we introduced a new file format that's a lot faster. It's more precise and easier to use and manage the data, but there's people who need it both ways. So in the new downloader 17, we've made it so you can actually go in and you can download in legacy or MS Local and not have to worry about which downloader you're using. So if you're using local data, this is a big update to the downloader for you, and just a few other things that I can do. Let's actually go back to MetaStock here. Let's actually bring up the downloader by just clicking on the downloader icon. And the downloader's down here. Let's go ahead and open it up. And let's open up the downloader console here. So you'll see I have two different tabs here. I have download and I have convert. So what this will do now, I don't have any legacy data on this computer, but what it would do is it would automatically recognize if you had legacy data on your computer, and when you went to do your download, it would say, okay, I need to update these files in the new file format and the other files in the legacy format. So it'll easily do that for you. There's no back work that you have to do. MetaStock Downloader just recognizes it and does the update for you. The other thing people have asked us for the ability to do is to be able to convert between the different file formats. So let's say, for example, you had something in MS Local, you wanted to convert it to legacy. You can easily do that now. So let's just go to MS Local. We'll browse and find our files here. We're just know where my data is. Usually it's just in the root of C, but I've got it in a little bit different location here. So let's go ahead and go into my MetaStock data. We'll just open up the Dow 30 here. So now I've got that loaded. You can see I've got my file type of MS Local. I could also convert from any of these file formats to something else. And then I just say I want this to go to legacy. So we'll just go ahead and choose a new file location for this. Let's put it right there, hit convert, and it's converted all that data for me. Now the other new powerful thing that we've added into the new downloader is, let's just open up this. Let's go close. We'll just add that in, sure. Now I can go in, and if I want to adjust a security, I can adjust, go to the data, and now I can manually adjust the data by factors. So let's say I wanted to divide by a factor of 1, 2, 3, or 5, something like that. So now this isn't something we're going to go into why you would do that, but this is something that people ask for that ability. So if you want to now adjust your data, you can do this manually. It's now built in. So some big enhancements to the downloader and what we've done. So if you're using an older downloader or MetaStock 11, this is a great reason to upgrade because all the features you need are now in the new downloader. And now we're going to talk about pre and post market data in real time. So what is pre and post market data? Well, before the market opens and after the market closes, there is actually trading that happens. So oftentimes you can see market movement before or after. And if we look at a chart, usually you may see at times there's periods where you may see a gap on a chart or something like that. And that's because, well, you have a lot of movement after the market or before the market that causes that during the market chart to look like it has a gap. So if you want to see that data, you can actually turn this flag on. So let's just open up Apple, for example. We'll use Apple a lot today as our chart of the day. So I'm looking at a daily chart here. Let's actually go down to a 5-minute chart. So you can see as an example here. So let's just put a circle right here. Okay, so we've got this gap between market close and market open the next day. Okay, so what happened during this time? Well, that's where pre and post market data can help us. So if we want to see that, we can right click, we can go to chart window properties, and then we can go over to trading sessions. And then there's this flag here that says include pre and post market trades. I just choose this, choose OK. And now you can see my gap has expanded because it's filling in all that data. So we can see what caused that gap and when it happened. So it looks like it happened in the morning before the market opened. Maybe something happened here. There was some kind of news or something that may have caused it to change. But you can see that pre and post market data come right into MetaStock now. So it's easy to turn that on and off. Again, you just go to chart window properties, uncheck that pre and post, and you'll see it'll go back to a normal view. Okay. These are a lot of the other user requested enhancements that we've put into MetaStock. We're not going to take the time to go through all of these. There's a lot in here. We're going to go through a few of these to just give you a high level overview of some of these. And a lot of these you may not even see happen, like faster load time. MetaStock's going to open up faster for you. It's going to remember where you left off. So when you close MetaStock, reopen it, it'll remember what charts you had open. So those kinds of things we're not going to go through. We're just going to pick a few of these, some of my favorites, show them to you and how they're going to help you in your trading. So first of all, this first one is backup user files. So one of the things we've learned from our users over the years is you do a lot of work on charts. We do the same. We work a lot with our charts here at MetaStock. And oftentimes we make new formulas, we work on our charts, we do a lot of things, and we want to save that work. We want to make sure it's backed up. So what you can do now inside MetaStock is, well, that's the downloader. Let's go to MetaStock. Is I can just come up here, go to File, back up my user files, say, where do I want to save it? We'll just save it right there in the MetaStock location. Oh, you actually have to close your charts first. Okay, so let's do that again. We'll just do it to the same location. And my files are now backed up. So you can see that my files are backed up. And now if you need help reinstalling these files, just call our support staff and they can help you restore everything to where it was before you had an issue. But everything is backed up right in that one click and makes your life really easy. So something I recommend to do on a frequent basis just to make sure you have all your data backed up. Now on the flip side of that, when we're working with data, one of the things we want to do sometimes is kind of clean things out. So, and this is something that people have asked for as well, is the ability to delete a smart chart. Well, really quickly, let's talk about what a smart chart is for those of you who may not be familiar with that vernacular. Let's go in and let's bring up Apple again. So what a smart chart is it's the ability to go in and say, let's put on some Fibonacci on there. Let's put an indicator on there. So if I go in and I make a bunch of changes to my chart, and even if you put notes on it, whatever you do to it, and then I go in and I just close this chart, you notice MetaStock doesn't ask me to save it. So what it's done is it's just automatically saved everything for me. So if I go open Apple again, you'll see that it automatically remembers what I've done and keeps all my settings of my charts there. So it makes it easy for me to just get right back to what I was doing. But sometimes, again, you want to clear those out. You want to start over. So what you can do, let's close our chart. And we go to File, Delete Smart Charts, hit Yes. It'll delete them. And now if I open up Apple, it'll go right back to its default settings. So delete smart charts is a great, useful feature. Makes it easier for you to just kind of clean everything out and start fresh. Okay, so this one has been a really big ask from people as well. Hey, if I have a ton of charts open with a template, I want to quickly be able to close them all. So let's show you an example of that really quick. So let's just open up the Dow 30. We'll just go down here, go to Index Constituents, find the Dow 30. Or the Dow Jones Utilities. We'll just open those. And I'm going to open these with a template. We'll just do this colorful template. Okay, so there's all of our charts in this colorful view. So before, if I wanted to close these, I'd go to File, Close All, and then it would ask me to close each of these individually. So I'd have to go no, 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 but now I can just hit no to all, and it will close them out for me. Small thing, but will make a big difference in a lot of people's lives because it's one of those things to make your life easier and help you get on to the next thing faster. So that's great. Easier to find formulas and systems. So one of the things that we've done, if you're new to MetaStock 17, this makes it easier for you to get to everything right out of the box. If you've been using MetaStock a long time, you know that a lot of the formulas, let's say expert advisors, let's bring up Apple again. Okay, so let's say I wanted to put on an expert advisor that helps give expert advice right on our charts, and I wanted to put on the MACD. Well, you knew historically if you wanted to put on the MACD, you'd have to go find what was called the Equus MACD. But now you don't have to do that anymore. Now they're under MACD by MetaStock, so you can go to the M's and find it. Or if you want candlesticks, if you want to look at our candlestick expert, candlesticks is now under C instead of Equus. So it's going to make your life easier to be able to find all the formulas inside MetaStock. It's the same inside the indicator quick list, the system tester. So you can see things now are listed as adaptive or what they actually are before you even plot them. So it makes it easier for you to be able to get to those files and formulas. Now, this one's one of my favorites so far. Actually, the next two are some of my favorites. They make life a lot easier when exploring. And exploring is one of my favorite features in MetaStock. And this makes my life a lot easier when I'm exploring. So the first one is easier access to the exploration options. And what that means is, if we go to the Explorer, and I select multiple scans. Let's just say that I'm scanning the RMO. So I want to do the RMO bullish zone, new blue bar, and a swing trade buy arrow. So these three things are required for an RMO buy. And I wanted to scan the S&P 100. Let's just go down here and let's select index constituents. Let's choose S&P 100. And over here on the side now, you'll see this new option box over here. So what you can do is you can say which one of those scans you want to go first. So let's say I want RMO bullish zone first. I want swing trade buy arrow second, so I can just select it and move it up or move it down where I want it to be. And then I can choose up here if I want to use the results from the preceding exploration, which means it'll run RMO, see which ones are true here, and then go here, see which ones are true, and see which ones are true here. So it filters down, it narrows down, and it finds the ones that match all three of your criteria. The other one is here, use selected instruments for all explorations. So it just run 3 explorations all on the S&P 100 and identify those. Let's use results from the preceding exploration. Let's see how that works for us. So I start my exploration. And you can see here it's starting with the RMO bullish zone. It's working through that list really quickly. And what it's going to do is tell us what it's done. So it had 64 results, 37 rejects. And then here we had 1 result and then 63 rejects. And then here we had 0 results and 1 reject. So we didn't get all the way down. We didn't find one that had all 3 criteria. But we have one here that has 2 of our criteria. So this Kinder Morgan here has 2 of our criteria true. So maybe it's something I want to add to a watch list. So I could just click on it here to add to a watch list. I could open it up in QuoteCenter. If I had a whole list, I could open up and pull up that list in QuoteCenter and then go through it. So you can see how that can help you in quickly identifying buy and sell opportunities by filtering down. And this doesn't have to be the RMO again. It can be the MACD and then the RSI and then a surge in volume. So you can really narrow down your list and identify which ones are going to be the best ones. So that's one of my quick and easy access favorite things inside MetaStock 17. And then this one is my next one. Exploration reports right at your fingertips. Well, what that means is historically what you'd have to do if you had run a scan and you wanted to see if there were any results to it, you'd actually have to go find the scan individually, right-click on it, and go to report, and then it would show me that report. Well, now you don't have to go hunt and peck anymore. We have this new button here that says report. You can select this and you can view all reports or you can only view reports for the ones that are selected. So I have those 3 RMO ones selected. So if I highlight and click that, it'll bring me right back to those same 3 explorations I just ran and make it, and so I can analyze them again. If I wanted to see all the ones that I've run, I can just click View All Reports, and it would bring up all reports. Now, this is a brand new install of MetaStock, so I've just run those 3 scans, so it's going to be the same list that we're going to see. But that makes it so much easier to get right to your lists, identify the securities that you want to, and do your analysis. So another quick win for us to help make life easier. And actually, again, another thing we've done there is that's actually available in system tests as well. So if you've run system tests, you can just click Report and view all your system tests as well to get back to those really easily. Okay, so we've already actually talked about this when we talked about QuoteCenter, that it's easier now to build and manage lists. The only thing that I'll highlight here is that now on every tab that you have a custom list button. So you can get to your custom lists from any tab. Now, QuoteCenter doesn't have that button because you're building your list here. You can click on it there. On the Explorer, on the System Tester, so you can get and manage your custom lists from any tab. So it's easier now to access your custom lists, but also build them inside QuoteCenter. So you've got a couple ways to get to that now, so it's easier to access that data. So the next thing we're going to do is talk about the new strategies that we've included inside MetaStock. And the first one we're going to talk about is Elliott Waves. Elliott Waves is one that we've had customers asking us for quite a few years. And Elliott Waves is a way of analyzing the market in a psychological way. It helps understand the psychology of the market, if you will. Now, as we go through this, one of the things that you'll notice is I'm not going into a lot of depth on Elliott Wave. We could spend a lot of time on it, but we're just going to give you a high-level overview of how it works in MetaStock and what Elliott Waves are, and then see how you can apply them and learn even more about Elliott Waves. So with that, let's go ahead and talk about Elliott Waves, what they are, where they come from. So Elliott Waves are based off of the work of a gentleman named R.N. Elliot. And he was an accountant and stock trader back lived between 1871 and 1948. And he started studying the markets and found these psychological patterns in the market. Now, we're not talking about patterns like double tops and triple tops and head and shoulders and things like that. What we're talking about is patterns in the way that things move. So they'll move one way and that follows another way and another way. So that leaves into what Elliott Waves are. They're these patterns that are identified. So the Elliott Wave principle is actually something that is, as we've said, it's used to identify market psychology and identify market cycles within that psychology. Then it breaks down into waves that show the characteristics of that psychology. And then it's broken down into 8 different types of waves. And we're going to talk about what those different types are and exactly what a wave is. And again, waves are different than patterns. So again, not the double tops, things like that. We're talking about wave patterns. So what is a wave? Well, let's just say that this is the stock market here. Let's just grab my pointer here. And you can see that we have an upward movement, down, up, down, up, down. So this kind of upward movement. And what these are actually waves. Okay, so if I look at this and say, well, this is a wave 1 down to a wave 2, 3, 4, 5. So what this means is, if I'm looking at a wave and a definition of a wave, is basically we have an upward movement, we have a pullback, and that pullback comes down and then goes up, and then we get this 3. Now a 3, to identify a 3, it can't be lower than a 1, so it has to move up. And then if it comes down here to a 4 can't be lower than a 2. And then we move up to a 5, and a 5 can't be lower than a 3. So you have to have this pattern. Inversely, if it was a bear market, it would be down, going down. So you would see this progressive downward motion rather than an upward motion. Okay, so this is what's called a 5-wave count. Well, a 5-wave count moves into what we call the breakdown of the 8 different kinds of waves. And the first types of waves we're going to talk about are motive waves. Motive waves are designed to move the market and push the market. So if we're trading, we want something that's going to help us look for that direction in which we're trading, right? We want to move with a wave. Now, a motive wave is labeled 1 through 5. 1, 3, and 5 affect direction, and then 2 and 4 are interruption waves. So if I go back to our example here, so the 1, 3, and 5 will be on the top because they are the motion. They're that upward direction or the downward direction, depending on if you're bullish or bearish. So we have our waves up, and then here, wave 2 and 4 are our interruption waves. They're breaking the cycle of the wave. So we have up, break, up, break, up. So that's that movement of the Elliott wave. Okay, then we have corrective waves. Now corrective waves we'll come back to in just a moment, but they're counter trend, and they're labeled as A, B, and C, and they're corrections to motive waves. Okay, so let's take some examples here and let's talk about it a little bit. Okay, so this is an example. Now on this chart that we see here, we see a lot of different 1, 2, 3, 4s, A, B, Cs. We're going to kind of focus on the big picture here, and we're going to look at this 1 right here. So you see it has a number 1 kind of in that green circle. So that's our wave 1. So we've come up to wave 1. We break down to that interruption, wave 2. And then this one continues for a long time up to that wave 3. And what happens when we have a wave 3? Well, it breaks down to a wave 4. And now we're waiting for that projection up to a wave 5. So what has to happen? Think of this as a trader. What has to happen between waves? So if I'm a 1 and I come down to a 2, I'm going to reverse upward towards a 3, right? So we're looking at that direction. We've had our interruption, and now we've got our upward motion in that wave. So here again, we had our 3. Now we're breaking down to a wave 4, so we're going to have that directional down. And remember, this 4 has to be above this 2. So we'll break here, and now we're expecting that climb back up above the 3. So that's what we're going to watch for as traders. Let's kind of take this down a little bit and look at this. So now you can see here again we have our directional wave, 1, 2, 3, 4, and if there may be a 5 out here, I'm not sure, but you can see how those waves work on a chart. Let's look at a different example. So here, again, this is a smaller time frame versus that big picture that we were looking at just a moment ago. So we have our wave 1 here, come down, interrupt wave 2, have our upward motion. You can see when it breaks above here, that's when we're heading to a wave 3. So anywhere between here and here, we could have that wave 3. We break down to a wave 4. My 4 is covered up there, apologize. And then it moves back up to that wave 5. So you can see as a trader how this can be helpful, because we can see once we kind of break above this level here, now we're in that upward movement to the next wave. Same here, we break down. If we're coming up, we break above that high, we're now heading up to a wave 5. So you can look for those breakouts above the waves. Okay, so those are very helpful in identifying the different types of market movement, because we can watch for those corrections after an interruption back up to the next motive wave. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about are corrective waves. So corrective waves are different than motive waves. They're not designed to affect direction. They're really a counter trend. They're looking at reversals and things breaking up the waves. So here, this is actually the same chart we were just looking at, but you can see we have an A here, a B here, a C here, but this is not an A again, okay? Because these are counter to what may be a pervasive trend overall. So you can sit back and you can look at these identifying counter trends and use those to your advantage as well. So corrective waves are different from motive waves. Motive waves are the big trading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s, and then the corrective waves are going to be those counter trend models. Okay, so again, here I just have them highlighted for you so you can see those corrective waves right on your chart. So let's actually, for a second here, let's close Apple in the background here. And let's go to chart here, and I'm going to bring up Apple again. It's the Elliott wave that we've been looking at in the background. And I'm going to load it up with the Elliott wave normal template. So there's quite a few different templates that you have built in here, and we'll talk about why these may be different here in just a moment. And then when you load up Elliott Waves, one of the things you want to do is load up at least 3,500 records. So I just select this load max records when I'm loading up the template. It just makes it so it brings in all the data at once, and you don't have to go back and do it in. So now we're loading up all of our data. So now you can see those Elliott Waves plotted right on the chart. So let's actually look at that 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, did this ever hit a 5? It is not yet. Let's zoom in. And why hasn't it hit a 5? Well, because we had this 4, and it hasn't gone and it hasn't broken above the 3 yet. So it would have to move more before it's able to make a 5 wave, because it has to break above that 3 level. So that'll help you identify what's happening there. Now here you can also see we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, and a potential 5 coming as well. So that 5 coming up here could be a potentially large wave for Apple, because it's looking at it at those different time frames. Now, one of the things that's really going to help you when you're learning Elliott Waves and using this system is the Expert Advisor. So you can come in here and you can view we already have the expert attached, so we're going to view the commentary window. So we're going to view the expert commentary. And this will calculate for just a second, because it's looking across all the different data to analyze what's going on with Elliott Waves here. Okay, so let's just dock this to the side. Okay, so now it's going to walk you through and tell you what's going on your chart and what you should be looking for with Elliott Waves right on Apple or whatever security it is that you are looking at. And let's even tell you what your support and resistance levels are, everything. So all that's going to be covered in the expert commentary for you. So if you're not super familiar with Elliott Waves, the commentary is a great guide for you to help you understand what's going on with Elliott Waves. Now, the other thing that happens with Elliott Waves is volatility. So we all know what market volatility is. It's, so over a long term, we may have a nice stretch of upward movement, but in between that, we've got a lot of ups and downs, and that's volatility. We're looking at volatility and amplitude. So if we're talking about amplitude, we're talking about movement of the market in different respects. So we've got that long-term picture, we've got the short-term picture and what's going on there. So the Elliott Wave add-on actually looks at these different market moves. So it measures it at an 8% volatility, 13, 21, 34. And then volatility will affect your wave type, okay? So that's why when I look at a chart, I may see that 1, 2, 3 that takes a really long time, 4. But here I have got a 1, 2, 3, 4, because it's looking at different volatility and measurements over time. And it will tell you over here what it's in. So fast amplitude, it's in a bullish wave 1, moderate, it's in a wave 3, it's in a wave 1. So it'll walk you through right through that in the commentary window and help you understand what's going on there. Okay, so again, here's Elliott Wave and MetaStock. Let's talk about scanning for waves. So you can actually go through, you can scan for Elliott Wave setups. So what you can do here is you can look for wave A, B, 3, 4, 5, and C, because these are the ones that really help us as traders. A wave 1 and a 2 aren't really going to help us, because we have to validate that break above wave 1 before we really have a confirmed pattern up to a 3. Okay, so that's why we don't include 1 and 2 as part of the scan. So what happens is when you run the exploration, it'll give you this number. So you can see 6, 5. If I went down, I have 4, 3, 2, 1. And then what I do is I take this number over here and correspond it to it. So if I had a number 5, that's a wave 5. If I had a 6, that's a wave C. So the first number is the waves, and this is in the manual. And then the second number is how many bars ago that occurred. So I had a C wave 47 bars ago on NVIDIA. So you can go through and you can then pull up the chart and look for that wave right on the chart with the Expert Advisor template. Okay, so that's how you can scan for waves. And just to recap what Elliott Waves are, again, we're identifying market psychology. So we're looking at the psychology of the market, we're breaking it down into that wave characteristic. And by using those rules of, well, if it comes up and it hits an interruption wave, goes up to wave 3. If it doesn't ever break above level 1, well, that's going to be a failed wave. It's not a good surfing wave, right? So it's going to break down. So that's some good ways to use it and analyze it as a trader. Now you can use this with other indicators, you can use it on its own analysis, but it's a very powerful way to understand market psychology and what's going on with the market. Okay, so the next system we're going to talk about is Martin Pring's Special K. This was an add-on as well as Elliott Wave that we had that sold for $300, and now we've just included it inside MetaStock 17 for free, so it's part of the upgrade that you get. And if you're not familiar with Martin Pring is a very well-known technician. He's been studying the markets for decades, going back to 1984. He's been putting out his market review on a weekly basis, showing people what's going on with the markets. And a lot of what you're about to see is a lot of what he uses to analyze the market. So let's talk about what Special K is and how it can help you in your trading. So what is the Special K? Well, to understand what the Special K is, first of all, you need to understand an indicator that's called the KST. So the KST is probably his most popular indicator. This is something that we've included in MetaStock for some time. But the Special K expands upon the KST in some really cool ways that we'll show you. So the KST stands for no sure thing. And it's not no as in no, you can't do that. It's to know something. So it's a no sure thing. So you can see how that's typed out there. So this is actually a momentum indicator. What it's based on is actually rate of change. So it's looking at a rate of change of how the market's moving, or the individual security that you're looking at, how it's moving, and then gives you a signal. Now, how that signal is derived is you actually take the KST indicator, which is the solid line here, and then you put a moving average over it, which is the dotted line. And when the KST moves above or below the signal line, you get buy or sell signals. So you can see this buy, sell, and you can see that these are actually very good buy and sell indicators. Now, one of the things with the KST is it may tend to lag. So what Martin Pring was trying to do with the Special K is take that lag out of the KST and make it a more powerful signal that you can get earlier. Another thing you can do is look for correlation between the KST and the Special K to get a more powerful buy signal as well. So there's a couple ways you can use it. So the Special K, what is it? So first of all, what it's doing is it's actually looking at multiple time frames. And when I'm talking multiple time frames, I'm not talking a 5-minute, 10-minute, things like that. We're talking time frames over time. So if we look at this chart over here, we have a primary trend, which is developed over 9 months to 2 years, an intermediate trend, which is this purple, which is developed over 6 weeks to 9 months, and then we've got a short-term trend, which is developed over 2 to 6 weeks. So it's using these 3 different time frames, per se, to help us identify time cycles, okay? So what it does is it combines these 3 time frames, the short, intermediate, and long-term time frames, into one series. So it basically consolidates all these 3 things into one, and then it gives us what's called the primary trend. The primary trend is designed to help us identify those reversals at an early stage. And then using this, it basically helps us look for shorter term buy opportunities that are 1 to 6 week periods. So if you're a swing trader, this is a great system for you, okay? So we've already talked about it. It identifies signals at an early stage, and it tells you when your short-term opportunities are developing in that direction. So how do you build the Special K? Well, again, you take those 3 time frames, use the primary, the intermediate, and then you arrive down at the short term. And what you're left with is this short-term trend. That is the Special K. Well, let's look at it on a chart. So this is the Special K. So you would buy at these peaks and troughs. So we'd buy at a trough, we'd buy at a trough, we'd buy at a trough, we'd sell at a peak or go short, buy, sell, buy, sell. So you can see this actually works very well. It identifies those peaks and troughs and the times to buy very, very well. And again, no system's going to be perfect. It's going to fail, but this is very good at identifying those trends over time and picking out the best time to buy and sell. Now, if we take this and we combine it with the KST, you can see that we've got this template set up where it has the KST here, and then we have the Special K. And if we look for these reversals together, it's a great confirmation of times to buy and to sell. So this would be a buy at this same time that we have a trough. And you can see that trough begins much earlier than the KST actually gives us an opportunity to buy. So this is actually a great way to confirm, if you want to, what the special K is telling you. But the special K will oftentimes tell you faster because it's not as much of a lagging indicator as the KST is. Okay. So what is included in here, so you get the special K indicator, but there's also an expert that will actually tell you when you have alignment between the KST and the special K. So you can go in here, and when it turns green, you have a buy alignment between the special K and between the KST. So you can see where these powerful buy signals are versus when you should be out of the market. So we have the same for shorts. When it's black, it's neutral. There's not really a good trade opportunity because you don't have alignment between the two. Okay, so it also has scanning built into it, so you can go through and you can scan for buy opportunities based off of the special K. Let's actually just go in, let's pull up a chart with the special K on it so you can see what it looks like. So we'll go up here and let's pull up something different. We'll pull up Facebook this time. Let's pull up special K. So there's two different templates. There's the daily and the weekly special K, depending on what time frame you want to look at it. Let's go ahead and choose Open Chart. And this will go ahead and load in the special K for you and the KST. And then if you want that expert advisor on there, we'll just attach the special K. So we'll just put the primary trend on here. There's also a signals indicator that you can do, but you can see how it'll highlight the chart right there for you and tell you over here in the commentary what you should be doing with that signal. So the special K system is relatively simple. You can see that we just talked about that here in just a few moments, but it's a great system for helping you identify easily those turning points in the special K part, looking for the troughs and the peaks and identifying those. And then if you want to confirm, using the KST to actually help you confirm as a lagging indicator. So you may get in a little bit slower with the KST applied, but it's a more powerful signal when you have that alignment between these two Martin Pring indicators. So great system, easy to use. Again, great system for swing traders who are looking for that 1 to 6 week opportunity as a trade setup. Okay, so one of the other things we've included here in MetaStock 17 is an RMO commentary window. The RMO, we've talked about a little bit in the exploration features, is a very popular strategy. It's designed to help us quickly identify reversals with identifying multiple trades. So what it looks for is for this primary indicator to be above 0. We look for a new blue bar and a new blue arrow, and that gives us a signal. And that's actually what we were scanning for earlier. So if we go back to the Explorer, remember I can click on Report, View All Reports, and I can go back to, let's say we wanted to look at Kinder Morgan. So we'll just go ahead and open up that chart. And let's put on the RMO. And you'll see now we've got this RMO commentary window that's actually going to tell us what we should be doing. So it's going to give us an overview of what the RMO is, what we should look for a buy setup, and then it's got a current state of the stock we're looking at, whether the RMO is bullish, the last color bar, and the last arrow. So this is a great checklist for you if you're using the RMO, and if you're new to the RMO, certainly, and how to look for buy opportunities. So this is a great new addition to the RMO included inside MetaStock 17. Okay, so just as a recap, here's what we've talked about in this video. QuoteCenter, which is the new system for actually building lists, looking at your data, working with your data in a much easier way, being able to click through and go through your watch list in a much easier way. OptionScope for analyzing options and being able to quickly hone in on that option that you want to trade and then putting it in your watch list and working with it on a daily basis. Again, for you people using legacy data in version 11 or version 11 downloader, you can now use the version 17 downloader to download, convert, sort, adjust, and work with your data. So great upgrades to the downloader as well. The automatic update of the symbol database, pre and post market data. We've got the other 14 enhanced usability features that we did a quick highlight of, and I showed you some of those usability features. We have the Elliott Waves System for market psychology, the Martin Pring system for swing traders, and that new RMO Commentary Window. Overall, I would say this is our best upgrade in MetaStock's history. This is a fantastic upgrade to help you get to your data, analyze your data, work with your data, get to your trades in an easier and quicker fashion. So I hope you have found this video from MetaStock 17 informative, and I wish you successful trading.